Hello guys, welcome to the 14th lecture for Cursor AI for Advanced Users course, and in this video we'll talk about how we can use Cursor AI to generate documentation and also use Cursor AI to explain parts of code and act like a senior engineer who is actually guiding a junior engineer. Okay, so let's quickly first talk about like why documentation matters. Documentation is actually the bridge between the code that you have written inside for your product and the understanding. Okay, so it's the documentation that actually helps your junior engineers or who is coming getting onboarded as the first time in your team. This documentation makes it very easy to understand the code and also the understanding of the different business rules that you have used in your product. Okay, it helps teams onboard faster, debug easier, and maintain cleaner systems. I remember in my experience that whenever we found some issue in our code or why this rule was made or why this thing was done, we used to document it a lot. So when later on when people kind of debug that code, right, and kind of want to know the reason like why was it done, it's the documentation that actually helps it, right? So that's why documentation is very important. And then, but what happens is whenever developers asked to develop a feature, developers mostly delayed because they are lazy, the first thing, and documentation is tedious, right? You have to write a lot of stuff, write a lot of stuff manually, and then it's slow in nature and it's tedious in nature, and it's boring in nature as well. Okay, with Cursor AI, what can happen is the documentation can become automated, and also we can use Cursor AI to, since it has all the details about the product, the documentation can use Cursor AI's contextual help in order to bring the documentation in the product, right? And it's effortless as well, right? We have been seeing that these kind of tedious work or repetitive work can be automated using Cursor, so it becomes very easy to do this. I mean, we just have to write few prompts and the documentation will be ready for us. Okay, so let's do some demo, and this is the first prompt that we are gonna write for explaining the code as a senior software engineer who is working on this code base for long to a junior engineer, right? So the prompt is act as an experienced Flask backend engineer, mentoring a junior teammate, provide a concise beginner friendly explanation of the selected Python code. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to our slides, and let me go to this one and let me copy this prompt. And then we're going to go to Cursor, right? We're going to select a function. So let me actually select some small function. Yeah, so we'll select this one, this function, right? So this is save draft, right? What does this save draft do? What happens with that, right? So we're going to add this to chat, right? So it has been added to chat. Now we're going to paste the prompt here, and then we're going to press enter here. We could have used ask mode as well. Even agent mode is fine. So let me actually cancel this, and then I'm going to select this as well, and then I'm going to use the ask mode here, right? We don't need the agent mode here, right? We can use the ask mode, which is good at explaining things, and when we have to ask Cursor something, this is the mode that we should use. Okay, so I'm going to press enter here, and then Cursor is going to look at the entire context of the project and generate the code explanation for this one. Usually as a junior engineer, it becomes very difficult, right? That why does it happen like that? Why does it happen like that? But with and seniors engineers bandwidth is very low, right? In this case, Cursor can help you a lot, right? So this is the this is the explanation that Cursor has come up. This is a lot, right? This is really good. I mean, you can go through this documentation, looking at this Flask route code. Let me break it down in a beginner friendly way. What this code does, this is a Flask route that handles saving blog posts and drafts, essentially unfinished posts that users want to save for later, line by line breakdown, and then you can go about understanding each line of the code so better here, right? And this is how you can write prompt for your other technologies as well, like you may be working on an Next.js project inside Cursor and it has generated a bunch of code for you. You can use this prompt to understand basically a function much better that way. Okay, so we are not going to go through this one. You can maybe when you are generating this documentation or explanation, you can go through it, right? I'm not going to do that, but yeah, this is how you do it. Okay, let's go back and let's talk about the other prompt. So the other demonstration that we have, and this is about high level and inline comments, right? So what it means is basically every function that you have written, but usually it is good idea to generate documentation for the function as well at the function level, right? And also people generally in companies, people generally maintain some standards on how to write documentation about it. If not, you can always follow the other documentation that are documentation standard are available online, like Google style standard. They provide that, hey, if you're writing C++, this is how you should write code, this is how you should name variables, this is how you should name functions, and for your function, this is how you should write that what is the function doing, right? So based on that, what we're going to do, we're going to copy this prompt, right? My bad. So we're going to copy this prompt and we can go here and we are going to generate documentation for a function, right? So we're going to go back to cursor and we're going to go select the render markdown function. So let me copy that one, right? And for this one, I will be using agent mode, right, to generate the documentation. And I'm gonna after also this one, I'm gonna add it to chat. Is it Control Command K? Not Command K. I think it's Command. I think it's Command L, right? Add to chat. So we have added it to our chat, and let me paste the prompt. So this is the function for which I want to generate documentation. So that's why I've written for the render markdown function, right? You could have also done like this. Does the at work here? It should work. Let me click at render then markdown. Yeah, I think it's this line only. So yeah, we have added this. We have also added the code as context, and this is what we want. Okay, so we are going to press enter here and let's see like what cursor generates the documentation for this function. This is very interesting, right? Otherwise we would have to go and sit here and then write a lot of things, and then inside for each parameters, like what the parameters are being passed, right, for that thing as well. But now with cursor, it's very easy. We can just pass the context, we can just pass the prompt and look at this documentation. This is really good, right? This is so good. This is actually following the Google standard style documentation. And this is a lot, right? And anyone who comes and read this documentation, he's gonna just be very simple. He doesn't have to go to each line by line code to understand like what this function does. Okay, this is the second demo that I want to talk about, and you can use that prompt to generate documentation for functions as well. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna go back and we already have this thing like a README file, right? Inside that we have a lot of documentation around setting up the project, initializing the database, cloning the repository, and all those things like folder structure, features that we built in our BlockForge app. So this is something that we have been building over the time. But what you can do at this point of time, when our project is kind of complete, we can also use this prompt where we want to act as a technical writer, right? And then the technical writer should go through the context that the product has, and cursor kind of becomes the content writer, technical content writer. And then the cursor is gonna basically, what it's gonna do is gonna generate the README file for us. But we will not override our README file. So for that, I'm just saying that, hey, update in a Docstrings.md for like so the prompt is act as a professional technical writer and draft a complete document.md for this project. Include the following sections: a short project overview, key features and core functionality, tech stack, frameworks, libraries, and tools used, a clear getting started guide with steps to set up the environment, initialize the database, and run the app. So let's copy this prompt, right? Let's copy this prompt, and yeah, we have copied this prompt. Let's go back to cursor. We are gonna use the agent mode again, and let me paste this prompt, and yeah, that's it. And we have to press enter, and then the cursor agent mode should create the document.md file for us. So let me quickly check, and this is not something that we have done, but yeah, fine. I think this was from our previous video when we were doing testing and stuff. So for that, it has written like how the integration test, the summary of the integration test we are running. So yeah, this is fine. We can ignore that for now. But yeah, this prompt is actually going to generate a document.md file for the BlockForge project, and let's see what it's going to do, right? So this is very interesting, and you can generate like app level documentation using this prompt. This prompt is very good. Okay. Okay, so it looks like cursor has generated a document.md file for us, and this is what it is. This is a huge document, and usually it will take so much of time to, generate this documentation, and there are a lot of steps as well. accessing the application, creating virtual environment, installing the dependencies, initializing the database, and all these commands are now put together in one MD file. So this is really good, and it's also about like where you can get this API keys and all. If you're using the OpenAI API provider, you can also go inside and tell like, hey, maybe we are using Gemini for that and all those things. So yeah, this is really good, and it has also generated documentation for our API endpoints as well into this file. So yeah, I'm very happy with this file. Okay, so we're gonna just keep all, and in this video we actually learned about how to generate documentation. I also see something here like Docker file as well, and actually in the next video we'll talk about CI/CD pipelines generation using Cursor AI, and work with GitHub as well to when we push our changes to GitHub, that it runs those test cases that we have, right? So we will do that in the next video, so going to be very interesting. And regarding the documentation, it's really important, and do try it with Cursor. It's very interesting. Okay, so that is it for this video. I'll see you very soon. Bye.